of April 6, 2020 to order at 5:01 p.m. This is Ken Poisson, 6th District Councilman and Chairman of the Public Works Committee. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we are conducting this meeting virtually on gotomeetings.com on Monday, April 6, 2020. Quorum for this meeting is 4, which we have. In attendance are the following members. When I say your name, please say present. Laura Dancho.
Present.
Bill O'Brien.
Present.
Bill Perillo.
Present.
Caitlin Shake.
Present.
And myself, Ken Poisson. Also in attendance are Mo McCarthy, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Aileen Marsh is our recording secretary.
Present.
Margot Paquette is the council clerk and the meeting organizer.
She's muted.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And is John
And Mike
Casey?
Downs.
And Mike Downs,
Mhm.
Chief of Staff for Mayor Laura Hoydick.
Present.
And is John Casey on yet?
Present.
Okay. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to remind everyone to please raise your hand if you're on video or ask to speak if you're on your phone. Then I will acknowledge you and then you can begin speaking. Each and every time you begin talking, you must begin by stating your name and title. All right, this is per Governor Lamont's executive order, which allows us to have these virtual meetings. Does anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, I'd also like to remind everybody that if you're in a noisy room, to please keep yourself on mute unless you're speaking. Thank you very much. Our second item of business is the approval of minutes from our regular March 2nd, 2020 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Laura
This is
Dancho.
Bill O'Brien.
Laura Dancho,
Hey.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Anybody opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3 is the report of the Public Works Director. Mo.
Morris McCarthy, Public Works Director. I believe that you have a report from me dated 6 April 2020 to report to the committee. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, it's always great that you emailed that to us ahead of time. I'm assuming everybody read it. So to save Mo from reading that now, does anybody have any questions for Mo?
Mo, this is Bill O'Brien. Yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
What's the status of summer resurfacing? We still going ahead as scheduled? Repeat that, Bill, please. Are we still planning to go ahead as scheduled with the resurfacing of the streets? Yes, as far as I know. Okay. I also want to give a thumbs up to Dave Hurley. There was some litter, a small pile of litter on East Main Street near the dock and the viaduct for at least a couple of weeks. And I happened to see Dave in the store and I mentioned it to him and he picked it up the next day. So just going to give him thumbs up. Okay, thank you. I'll pass it on to him. How about the Parks Department, Mo? The Parks Department taking advantage of this time to get any special projects done? They're doing general cleanup. They're getting fields ready. Obviously, we're working at DeLuca Field and also Short Beach. Other than that, you know, it's general cleanup, spring cleanup at this point. Right. One other thing that I have to mention is that we're sort of waiting on the decision whether the school is going to reopen or not reopen. But we're set up to do milling and paving at Worcester Middle School and Lordship School for the parking lots. But we don't want to start it if school is coming back into session before the beginning of summer. If they don't schedule, and it'll be completed by the time school starts in September. And this is all from funds that have been appropriated in last year's capital.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yes.
Laura.
This is Laura Dancho, 10th District Council. Counselor, I just have a question on the appointments for bulk pickup. I know we're starting them earlier. Are you finding that there's enough appointment times, or are you already having...
Actually, we opened up the phones to appointments on Monday and picked up about 75 telephone calls, and that was from an announcement on the website. So to answer your question, yes, we do have enough appointments at this point, but they go fast. We probably get 15 or 20 a day. Everybody's been accommodated, and we were into the beginning of June. We do pickups 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday. Friday is the makeup day. If one has been missed, or if one has some type of situation where we have to go back. But so far, so good.
So far everybody's being accommodated. That's great. That's great.
Well, we backed it up. We weren't scheduled to start until next week, but we backed it up because of the situation. Everybody's out, and everybody's been calling, so it worked out fine.
Perfect.
And we also included, we used to do 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we decided to drag it into Thursday and use Friday for the makeup day.
Great.
And it seems to be working out fine.
It's nice to see everyone's cleaning up with extra time. I just had one other question, and that's regarding the very slow winter season we had this year, and I'm wondering if you're finding you have a pretty good surplus from lack of plowing, maybe, and sanding. And
we don't. Very honestly, we don't have any type of surplus because we don't have a line item in the budget for weather events. Typically, what happens is that some of the funds are taken from town road aid, which is a state funded account we have. Every town has it. And also it comes from contingency if the need be.
Okay.
To answer your question directly, we had basically 3 or 4 storms, and I'll have those numbers available for the next meeting. But yes, it was a good year. It was light on the budget. So some of those funds may be able to be directed elsewhere, but I wouldn't commit to that right now without talking to finance and the administration.
Great, thank you.
But it was an easy winter. Let's put it that way. At least up to now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mo?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
This is Caitlin Shake, Councilwoman for District 2. Mo, for the West Broad Street reconstruction, with the updates that were submitted to us regarding the possibility of delay, do you have any idea of what the extended timeline is going to be now?
I would refer that to John Casey, who's on the line.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, what was the topic again?
The West Broad Street reconstruction?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
I did send my memo out this morning, so there's a little brief update on that, but we are working currently. We're waiting for the contractor to send an updated schedule, but there's no, he's been able to work through the winter, so the schedule-wise, he's been able to make up some time that he lost in the fall. So we are expecting a September, October completion date.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mo? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is the report of the town engineer. John.
I have 2 items that we'd like to take some action on. The first was last month we reported on the engineering inspection and construction administration fees on the job were under budgeted, and the engineer is requesting additional fee for the duration of the project, which takes us through June 30th of this year. One issue we have is the budget is very tight, and the town isn't funding the budget. We have a budget that includes a state grant and contributions from Sikorsky. So what we'd like to do is move this with a recommendation to approve, with the caveat that it's contingent on the funding being in place from the project budget, or if other funding is identified.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is the money needs to come from somewhere else besides the town of Stratford.
Right, it has to come from within the project budget, which, we're expecting some savings within the project budget, but the project's not done yet, so we don't like to commit to spending money we don't really have yet. We may find some savings that can go toward this, as we get closer to completing the project. But at this time, we don't want to say that we have the money or not. So that's why we're recommending that we approve a contingent upon the funding of it.
Okay, would someone like to make that motion? Laura, go ahead.
This is Laura Dancho, District 10. I move to approve the additional funds in the amount of $165,690 to the engineer, AI Engineering, for inspection and construction of the Route 10 and 110 improvements, pending project fund availability.
Is there a second?
Bill
I'll
Perillo,
second it. Bill Bryan, Ninth
Okay,
District.
Bill Perillo is the second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Laura,
This
go
is
ahead.
Laura Dancho, District 10. What happened that they extended their budget for that amount of money?
They proposed the project to be completed in a 3-month
John, can I
time.
interrupt you for a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, John Casey, town engineer.
Thanks, John.
They budgeted their proposals based on a 3-month construction period, and that was just woefully underestimated.
Okay. Thank you.
Laura, go ahead.
Laura Dancho, District 10. If we move to approve this, and there isn't enough funding within the project, which is what this is going to be contingent upon, right? What would happen?
We wouldn't have the mayor sign any amendment that doesn't have funding attached to it. So that's why we wanted to make it contingent upon the funding. What we think will happen is that we're going to find funding within the budget, or as I said, Sikorsky was funding part of the project, and they may have to kick up their contribution to the project funds.
But Sikorsky nobody's committed to any of that yet, correct?
Not yet. We've talked to them, but we haven't negotiated a commitment.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Laura.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. John, you're up again.
And on the same project, this is a change order for the installation of solid steel picket decorative security fencing. The project includes this in the contract, but it doesn't include 4-foot high fence. We only have 8-foot high fence. So we need a new contract item for the 4-foot high fence. And of course, the cost of this will be offset by the amount of 8-foot high fence we don't put in. So it is a new item in the contract. So we have to have the town council approve it, but ultimately be balanced out by cost savings on the other end. But the cost is $11,920.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I can make that motion. This is Laura Dancho, District 10. I move to approve the Route 110 improvements for the installation of a 4-foot solid steel picket fence in the amount of $11,920 to the town council with a favorable recommendation.
Is there a second? Second by Caitlin. Is there any discussion?
So we can use some of this, Laura Dancho, District 10, some of this surplus for item A.
John Casey, town engineer. This if it balanced out to be a surplus, you know, those are the types of cost savings we might find within the budget.
Okay.
You know, as we go through, some items were not used, so we have some money that's going to be available. At the same time, we're you know, obligated to do things the DOT wants us to do, and I note in my report on the status of the project that the DOT's having us expand the limit of the paving on the project, and we're kind of saying we don't want to expand the limit of the project because we can't afford it. So we're having that discussion with the DOT prior to doing the paving work and coordinating with their paving work, which they're going to be paving up to our project limit. So we've asked them to pave up to our project limit, and then they moved our project limit so that they would do less paving. So, you know, anything extra we spend comes out of the budget, makes it more difficult on the other end. So we're trying to save every money we can find in the project.
Hey, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Go ahead, John.
So the other items are just updates on projects. If I could run through them, or if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Does anybody have any questions? Because John did email that out to us ahead of time, which is always very good to do. Does anybody have any questions for John?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Casey.
Thank you.
Hey, item 5 is new business. Does anybody have any new business?
Well, I just want to note, Bill O'Brien, 9th District, just want to note that the DOT released a press release today that reconstruction of interchange 33 is going to begin.
Yeah.
Did it have a date, Bill?
It sounded like immediately they announced some lane closures south and north on the 95 and between you know, certain hours.
Mike, do you have any updates on that for us?
Yeah, I believe it's supposed to start tomorrow, or this week, and it should go until next year.
That's exciting.
A lot of years coming.
Yeah, we did copy the DOT's press release on the mayor's page today.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
I have a comment on item 2B, Morris McCarthy, Public Works Director.
Go ahead, Mark.
Route 110 improvements, the traffic light work is continuing. However, the contractor has advised the town that there may be a delay due to the lack of agreement between UI and DOT regarding permanent electrical service for traffic controllers. The rule is, throughout the state of Connecticut, any traffic controller for a state traffic light within the confines of that entity, the entity pays the electric bill. So every state traffic light that you see in Stratford, the town of Stratford pays that electric bill every month. About 4 weeks ago, I authorized our account representative from UI to bill us for that traffic light. Now, what had originally happened was the traffic light was owned by Sikorsky, but because the gate is moved and they are tying in the traffic lights on Route 110 into the controller, the majority of the traffic light work belongs to us as far as the electric bill is concerned. So that's sort of a lame excuse. That should be all set, and I found this today, and I'll certainly check with our account rep tomorrow. But we are responsible for the electric bill for the traffic lights throughout that intersection now.
I'm not 100%, John Casey, town engineer. I'm not 100% certain that the issue was about the payment, but I'll check into it. If that was the only issue, then that'll answer that question. But also, they had something to do with whether permits were needed and things like that. So there's some other kind of statewide issue they were having. But I'll bring that to their attention. Maybe that'll answer that question.
Okay. As far as the town of Stratford is concerned, we're responsible for the bill, and it should be. I have the record in my office, obviously, with the account rep from UI that we deal with. So that should be good to go.
All right, we'll follow up on that.
Nice.
Any other new business? Caitlin, go ahead.
Actually, Bill O'Brien?
Caitlin raised her hand first there, Bill. Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Caitlin, District 2 Council. Mo, I just want to say thank you to the crew that you had come out to Longbrook Park because of the vandalism that we had. The mayor's office, everybody, we responded very quickly in less than 24 hours. And I walked down in the morning just to kind of see the extent of the vandalism and what they were able to clean up. And it really just helped to calm a lot of our neighbors' nerves, considering everything that's going on. So I just want to say thank you. And I do have a question.
Go ahead.
For Longbrook Park, for the field that's usually occupied, in the springtime by Pop Warner and what have you, there are giant tires that are just in the field, and I live right behind the field. So what I've been noticing is that there are families still coming out, there are people coming out. Some are adhering to social distancing and some are not. But the problem is that there are multiple people coming out and then trying to move that one giant tire. I mean, if you sent your guys out, you would see it. It's in the middle of the field. So my question is, I don't know who owns that tire, if it's property of the high school or if it's in the field. But it's a hazard because multiple people are touching it multiple times a day. So it's not actually helping prevent any potential transmission of COVID-19. So I just want to know how we should go about that, to getting it moved, if Public Works needs to move it off the field, just so that it's not a temptation, because I know people are, have a little cabin fever. But the last thing we want is for multiple people touching the same thing.
It'll be moved tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Bill O'Brien.
Yes, Bill O'Brien, 9th District. just back to Mo again about the traffic lights. Would you know offhand what it costs us each year for electrical, for traffic lights?
I don't have the number in front of me, but I can certainly email it out to everybody tomorrow. I'm guessing somewhere around 50,000 a year, but please don't hold me to that. I just don't have the assets in front of me to look it up.
Okay,
But I
just
will
curious.
get it
In
out
fact,
to you.
maybe Bill Perillo could answer this question. If a police officer gives someone a ticket for going through a red light, does all the fine go to the state, or do we get any of that?
Bill Perillo on. I believe at one time I had heard there was a small percentage. What the problem with enforcement is, there's some states and some counties that used to the more the police department would do for fines, if a percentage went back to that police department, it was like an incentive, and that became pretty much unconstitutional. You just don't want the cops writing tickets because they're going to get some sort of incentive on the back end of it. So so when there's any town ordinance that's a violation, that all goes to the town. All the parking tickets go to the town. A state infraction that's on a state road, the last I remembered, all the money goes to the state of Connecticut, and at the end of the year, the money raised gets distributed evenly to all the 169 towns throughout the state. But they don't want an incentive where we write millions of dollars worth of tickets so that we can fund our own issues.
Right.
Over
Oh, that's good. If some of it goes back to each community, that's fine then. That's good.
Okay, any other new business? Okay, our next regular meeting is the first Monday of May, which is May 4th. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Bill O'Brien, 9th District.
I'll second. Laura
Okay,
Dancho.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Chair
you.
votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. And before I close out, I'd like to thank everybody. Please stay safe out there and be well. We are adjourned at 5:28 p.m.
You too.
Thanks, all. Well done.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.